Hey, it's Sarah with Loaves and Dishes, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Danish Kringle. Before we get into today's video, please be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so that you'll be notified when we upload. So a Danish Kringle is a pretty popular Wisconsin and Midwestern dessert. I think traditionally it's in a ring shape, but you can make them in this square shape. I wasn't going to try to make a ring shape. I feel like if you're making this at home, it would be just easier to do like a little square shape, like a hand pie shape, that kind of thing. So the recipe is super simple. It's 2 cups of flour, 2 sticks of butter, some vanilla, and a cup of sour cream. And ideally, you'd want your butter to be cold because it's for this type of dough that we're making, it would be easier to mix up that way. And if your butter's cold, it's going to lead to a flakier crust. My butter was only slightly cold because it had been sitting out on the counter for about an hour. But it worked out just fine. Either way, it worked out just fine. And I initially started mixing this with a spoon, but because of the butter and the flour and everything, if you're not going to use a hand mixer, I would really recommend just getting in there with your hand. Because that's going to be the easiest way. But you have to be careful. If you mix it with your hand, you have to go pretty quick. Otherwise, the warmth from your hand will completely melt the butter and it might lead to a consistency that you don't like. Also, you want to be careful that you're not overworking the flour for this recipe. You want to be careful to not overwork the flour for every recipe, but this is where I just gave up with the spoon and I was like, just forget it. I'm just going to use my hand. You know, sometimes I like your hands really are your best tools, especially when it comes to cooking, because sometimes there's nothing that can replace like feeling something with your hand. Especially with baking and like making breads and things, sometimes just feeling the dough is the best way to go. And that's just something that I've learned over my years and years of cooking and stuff, is that sometimes just using your hand is best. So I'm using my hand. I could have used my KitchenAid, but I didn't want to drag it out. So yeah, that's why I'm not using my KitchenAid. It would have been easier to mix this up in the KitchenAid though, I will say. And I wouldn't have gotten dough all over my hands. But that is what it is. So once I feel like I've gotten that mixed up pretty well, I'm going to get out some saran wrap and I'm just going to put my dough in the saran wrap. I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to stick it in the freezer. I could have left it in the bowl, but I just wanted to put it in the saran wrap because I didn't really have space in the fridge for a bowl. I got dough all over my shirt. So yeah, this is a messy recipe anytime you're dealing with flour. And then I put it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes just to rest and to like firm up a little bit before I rolled it out. So I put some flour down on my board and I'm going to roll this dough out. I could not find my rolling pin. I have no idea where it went. Oh, before I did that, I was a little bit worried that I didn't get the butter mixed in well enough, so I just kneaded it a couple times. I think this is about 10 times. You do not have to knead it if you don't want to. I just was worried that I didn't get it mixed up very well. So I just gave it a quick knead. That's not really a part of the recipe, but if you feel like you didn't mix it up very well, that's an option that you have. Okay, so I couldn't find my rolling pin, so I had an alcohol bottle and I just am using it. You know, sometimes you just have to make do with what you have. And if you have a bottle shaped like a rolling pin, it will do the job. My husband hid my rolling pin from me when he did the dishes. I know it. I don't know where it is, and I'm upset that I couldn't find it. So you just want to roll that out so that it's pretty thin. You don't want it super thick, otherwise it's going to take a long time to bake. That's about 1/2 inch, I'd say. And then I cut it in half. I attempted to do 2 different flavors, but one of the flavors just didn't turn out very well. I decided I was going to roll it out a little more. So I cut this in half. I'm trying to make up my mind on what I'm going to do. Okay, so I cut this in half, and on this half I used some apple butter. I wanted this to be a fall flavor. If you have like a pumpkin spread, jelly would be good. You can add any sort of filling that you like. So apple butters, I think a cream cheese with like some sugar would be good. You can add jelly, you can add chocolate, you could probably add marshmallows. I think you can add any sort of sweet filling that you wanted to. And then I'm just like folding this up on itself so that it makes like a little square. This is not super neat, and I don't think that it needs to be super neat. Again, I think the traditional Kringle comes in like a ring shape, but a lot of people make like a long square shape, which is what I was attempting to do, but I didn't think about that when I was rolling it out. Anyways, all of that to say, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it tastes good, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I put that on a baking sheet. Now I'm just taking a fork and I'm just going to crimp the edges. This is just to make sure that like nothing comes out while it's baking. I'm just crimping over where I folded it. And then I'm doing a little wash on top. You could do an egg wash. I'm just using some milk because I didn't want to use the whole egg for an egg wash. Either one will work just fine as far as for browning purposes. Then you want to bake it at 425 for about 20 to 25 minutes, and just until it gets slightly golden brown. Now this is optional. I wanted to put some pumpkin pie spice on top, and so I brushed it with butter. The butter just helps everything stick. If you wanted to, you could probably brush it with a little water just to help things stick, but I just felt like the butter would add a nice flavor. So I gave that a gentle sprinkle, and then I made some icing with some powdered sugar, a little splash of milk, and some vanilla, just to drizzle on top. And I put it in my squeeze bottle so that it was easier to drizzle. But that's it. This was super good. It was so easy to make. I already had all the ingredients in my fridge. And look, I'm going to show it to you. It's absolutely beautiful. Had a little piece of wax paper stick. But that's it. That's how you make a Danish Kringle. If you want to see more recipes, be sure to check out Loaves and Dishes. And thanks for watching.